All right. So today I wanted to talk about thesis statements because, of course, Wednesday we're going to have a class meeting, and I will go more over what the exam is going to be like. But basically, your exam's 2 FRQ questions, with the first one being an argumentation question, which is 60% of your grade. And basically, they altered the argumentation question a little bit, got rid of the refutation or the alternative viewpoint, and they focus more on you providing reasoning and evidence to your examples. So your thesis has become really important. It's now a 7-point essay, and basically about 5 of the 7 points are connected to your thesis. So if you don't have a solid thesis statement, there's no way that you can score very well in this exam. So what I want to do today, just in this video, I'm just going to really discuss, how to develop a strong thesis statement, because I think that's so important for this argumentation essay. So the first thing you have to do when we're obviously is we read the prompt right here. Okay, so right here in the light green, this is the prompt. The prompt follows this scenario right here. So the scenario is, following the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, President Bush ordered the use of wiretaps to collect metadata on phone calls being made between the United States and countries where terrorists were suspected of operating. Because this practice involved very broad collection of data, few of the wiretaps were authorized by warrants. So the prompt is now asking you is develop an argument that takes the position on whether or the collection of data was constitutional or that it was unconstitutional. Use at least one piece of evidence from the following documents: the Fourth Amendment, Fed 51, or Fed 70. Okay, so looking at this, we're just looking at the thesis. I'm not even going to really get into the rest of these points down here. I'm just looking at this point right here. Respond to the prompt with a defensible claim or thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. All right, so when I graded your argumentation essays in the past, your argumentative essays, I should say, the problem is some of you don't have a strong or defensible thesis, okay? So in this essay right here, basically this first, we want to call it a paragraph, is just going to be your thesis statement. So to start a thesis statement, I have to do 2 things. I have to choose a side, and then I have to support my claim with a line of reasoning, and I'm saying at least 2 points. I'm only going to say 2 points because you have 25 minutes to do this, which, I really appreciate a lot of things College Board is doing. But to try to make you write an argumentative essay in 25 minutes is going to require very precise time management skills. So you're not going to have a whole lot of time to brainstorm or to, look through notes or things like that. You're basically going to, once you read the question, you're going to have to get right into it. So I'm only going to say really focus on 2 points in your line of reasoning. So the first thing your thesis needs to do is you need to determine what side are you picking, okay? So there are 2 sides, right? And it's stated right here in the question. You're going to determine whether the collection of data was constitutional or unconstitutional, okay? It doesn't matter. I can choose either one. But just from our argument points, I'm going to say the data collection was unconstitutional. All right. So that's the first part. Now, if I just came out here and I said, I think that President Bush collecting a metadata between the United States and other countries was unconstitutional, that is not going to get me the thesis point, okay? Like I said, if you don't get the thesis point, it becomes very difficult to grab a lot of your other points. So you need to have a strong thesis with 2 points that I can point back to that I can develop my 2 body paragraphs off of. All right, so the first thing I have to think, what doc am I going to use? So I have the 4th Amendment, comes from the Constitution, or Fed 51 or Fed 70, okay? Fed 51 was the one that talks about checks and balances. Fed 70 is the one that talks about powers of the president, okay? So I have to use one of those 3 documents, okay? So I'm just, for the purpose of this, I'm going to say I'm going to use the 4th Amendment. I think it's the easiest one to use. So I'm using the 4th Amendment. Now, I can't just say because of the 4th Amendment. I have to explain why. And that's because the 4th Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. All right. Forgive my spelling. So now I have to use another piece of evidence, okay? Now here's the thing, some of you have done this in the past, you've then used Fed 51 or Fed 70. That's fine, you can use that. But no, it doesn't have to come from one of these 3 things. It has to be something else other than the 4th Amendment. So I can't use the 4th Amendment twice. I can use any other piece of information. I can use Fed 51, I can use Fed 70, I can use another foundational document, I can use a court case, I can use whatever I want. So what I'm going to use in this case is going to be the Katz versus the United States case, which, if you remember, we talked about. Probably this would have happened around the start of our coronavirus classes. We talked about this. This is where it said, the court said, I'm using the Katz versus United States case because it said, the court said that placing eavesdropping devices on public phones without a warrant was unreasonable. Okay, so basically, making an argument that if they say that, you can't have eavesdropping devices on, public phones without a warrant, what makes them say they can collect metadata, and metadata that includes, text messages, cell phone conversations, emails, all that good stuff. Between 2 individuals without a warrant. Who's to say? If they can't do that on a public payphone, why can they do that on your personal cell phone? Now I have to put this all together, and I have to write my thesis statement, okay? So how you write the thesis statement, some people they go through this thesis equation. I think it's, I'll put in parentheses, what we're looking for right here is a short restating of the prompt plus defensible claim plus my line of reasoning, which has 2 points. Okay, so let's put this all together. So I'm going to say, so the prompt right here, talking about, President Bush using, collecting metadata without warrants, okay? So I'm going to say the collection of metadata by the US government after 9/11 was unconstitutional. Now, if I just stop there, okay? If I just stop there, that's not going to get me to the thesis point. That's what some of you have been doing so far, is you've just been stopping right there and you're like, okay, I've said this and that's my thesis. That's not going to get you to the point because you haven't backed it up with a line of reasoning. And basically what the whole point of the line of reasoning is, it basically kind of previews what you're going to talk about in your two body paragraphs. So I'm then going to introduce my 2 points from my line of reasoning. So the first one, the Fourth Amendment. This is because the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. In the Supreme Court has already that the government needs warrants to collect all right. Now this is a long thesis statement. I will grant you, okay? If your thesis statement is anything longer than this, you know, it's probably too long. And really, you could probably even shorten this up a little bit. I could really say because of the protections guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment and because based off of rulings by the Supreme Court, I could say something like that. But this is a concise thesis right here that would get me the one that give me the thesis point, okay? Then I'm going to go into my 2 body paragraphs, which I'm going to get into later. But I think it's really important that you understand your thesis has to have your defensible claim, which just about everyone has had some sort of defensible claim. But then you have to back that up with your 2 points in a line of reasoning. One of your 2 points, right, has to be related to one of these 3 documents. The 2 points can come from one of the other documents, or it could come from something you have learned in class. All right, this is just kind of me just showing you the thesis kind of point in the argumentation essay. On Wednesday, we'll meet in Zoom. I'll kind of go over the whole exam in and of itself, and then answer any questions that you have. Hope everyone's doing good, and I'll see some of you all soon in the Zoom classroom.